as leaders of those political parties, you being the Director General IPAC, that's Inter-Party Advisory Council, is that the best way to go, that you think Nigeria politics can be seen to be very healthy going forward and to even face election 2027?
Topsy, Nigerians speak so much about crisis in political party. There are crises everywhere, including even in your own family. Whenever you have a unit where two persons are involved, once they disagree, there's going to be what we call crisis. In a political system, don't forget, it's a struggle for power, struggle for control. Who gets what? Clash of interest. People, you want to be governor, another person wants to be governor. There's going to be some level of, I think that these are consistent with democratic principles. The challenge is that sometimes some of us take it beyond the limit. For example, when the Supreme Court had pronounced that you're not chairman and you're parading yourself as chairman, when the Supreme Court or an order of court had said this is the way to go, and you're still, you can appeal. I don't have a problem with appeal until you get to the last point of it if you disagree. But once the last court in the land has said this is the way to go, I expect that the average Democrat should obey the law.
So in a way, you are saying it's healthy to have this internal wrangling.
It's democratic. It's democratic. It's power struggle. People would want to find how they can get to this. But what I always advocate is fair, struggle, and not mischievous ones that tend to derail the party. Today we hear that there are some external influences in some political parties. These are the ones that I found against. But if it is consistent with what the normal power struggle, and you're dealing within the books, within your constitution, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. For instance, your party, National Rescue Movement, how did you come about to become the chairman? Was it like there was a crisis or a period had come for you to elect new leadership?
Well, actually, in the National Rescue Movement, after the 2023 election, we had issues with the leadership because the chairman, the whole organs of the party were unanimous that the chairman did not carry the party as expected. And on 23rd of October 2023, in a NEC meeting, unanimously sacked him, consistent with our constitution. But unfortunately, Justice Omotosho asked him to return back to, status quo. That was April 2020, April 18, 2024.
Okay.
And the party, being a law-abiding party, expected the chairman to resume work. He didn't resume. He went into hiding. The party leadership had to go to INEC to say, INEC, our chairman, who the court had said come back to work, had refused to come back to work. Please, can you help us get him to come and do his job? Because under our constitution, the National Managing Committee, which is the organ that runs the party on a weekly basis, should meet every week. The NEC should meet quarterly. But for a period over a year, nobody was seeing the chairman. So, which means that we have defaulted our constitution even on our weekly meeting for National Managing Committee. It took INEC to bring him back to work. The first day he came, he had a meeting with the National Managing Committee. He said actually he was tired, that he wants to bring someone to become chairman. And the party said...
This person you're referring to is who?
Isaac Ude, who was the former national chairman.
Oh, okay.
The party said, what you're saying is not consistent with our constitution. If you are tired, you want to leave, you can resign. And the party knows how to deal with it.
Yeah.
There's even a constitutional provision on what happens when a chairman resigns. As if that was not enough for him, he single-handedly wrote a letter to INEC to call for an emergency convention to give the power to someone else. INEC wrote to the party and said, of course, the National Managing Committee didn't even know he wrote a letter. It was when INEC replied, because the letter was delivered at the party secretariat, that National Managing Committee now realized that the chairman had written a letter without the NEC approval, without the National Managing approval, under our constitution. It is the National Executive Committee that can call for a convention. That never happened. Not even National Managing Committee agreed, not to talk of National Executive Committee. INEC referred him to our constitution in the letter. And when he insisted, INEC wrote another letter within 24 hours. For the first time, I saw INEC so proactive.
Gradually becoming either wrangling with.
So when INEC wrote the second letter, they went ahead and knowing that INEC was not going to attend the convention, they went to a court asking for order of mandamus to compel INEC to come for the convention. Then in the court, the judge said, put INEC on notice and come back on the 28th of January. Let us hear you. They did not wait for the court. They went on the 17th of January in what, in their imagination, is family and friend. Not a single member of NEC, not a single member of National Executive Committee was available when he said he gave the party, he relinquished his position to Edozo Joko, who was sacked by Supreme Court on November last year. And this was just a month after he left, the Supreme Court sacked him for trying to, in the language of Supreme Court, for him shop. Because what he did was to see how he can find himself into Abga. Supreme Court said no. And he now felt he could do the same thing in NRA. Yes. Based on that, the party leaders were angry. And based on our constitution, the party leaders now invoked a section of our constitution that required that the two-thirds majority of National Executive Committee members call for a NEC meeting. And based on that, INEC attended a NEC meeting. It was in that meeting that he was suspended. And before that meeting, because of all these activities, his polling unit had sacked him. So what NEC did on January 27th, was to ratify the position of the sack of the polling unit, and then had to now call an emergency convention, because over time we had some of our officers that died. Our National Organizing Secretary died, our National Public Secretary died, our auditor died. So we have a lot of positions in acting capacity. And the NEC felt that...
As this guy I used to know, Fuye, or what is his name?
Afuye. He was our National Public Secretary. Yeah. He just died.
He died?
Mohammed Durisu, our National Organizing Secretary.
Because I've not been hearing from him.
He died. So we needed to now, because many positions are now in acting capacity, we need to go for the convention of April 14th, where party now ratified the positions of all the acting capacities, and of course that's where we now have everyone now acting substantially.
Okay. Whose name do we have right now in INEC? Is it you or?
I am the chairman. The INEC recognizes as of today.
Okay.
Yes.
Now let me get back to you on a very larger form. These parties that we have closely to about 16 or more that are listed for contest of any election at all in Nigeria, is it healthy enough? Is that the way it is done anywhere? Because I see some of them not capable even producing a councillor. Now that talk about having a member house state assembly and then at that larger form.
TOPSY, I totally disagree with you.
Yes.
I disagree with you. First,
I'm only trying to imagine how these political parties are there, and then at the point they are not being heard.
TOPSY, yes. There are 19 political parties in Nigeria. Each of the parties in Nigeria today has the capacity to win election anywhere, if not nationally, at least in polling units, at least in the world, in the local government, in the state. Once you have electoral system, in fact, if you notice in IPAC has been consistently asking for the scrapping of State Independent Electoral Commission. The idea is that State Electoral Commission, in the language of Mahmoud, is coronation of candidates of the government,
because
not an election. Now, what they do there is that the governor sits down, writes the name of his friends and associates, and makes them. If you allow INEC to run election at the state level, recently by November, early next year, they're going to have election in the FCT, which is only one INEC conduct. You're going to see the difference. You will find as many political parties as possible winning the election compared to the charade you have in some of the state called election.
So, by the way, you're simply saying that having more of these political parties like the way they are is healthy enough politically in Nigeria?
Multi-party,
because it's not disgusting politically, I must confess.
Multi-party democracy is the best all over the world. It creates opportunity for you to choose between ideas and say the one you want. It also puts the ruling party in check, knowing that there's someone who will take over from you if you're not doing very well.
But look at what is happening in this country. Are these political parties really doing what they should do as opposition? Because if you see, some of them don't even make noise. They don't even talk until when it gets closer to election or something like that. You're now hearing them. I often imagine, that's my opinion, whether or not there's something attached to it. Monetarily, I don't know.
Let me explain this. I made this argument in the last interview I had in your colleague's studio.
Yeah.
That argument is that PDP and APC, having been in power from 1999 to when APC started in 2015, have now gotten access to national resources, whether they like it or not. They drive our cars, they use our security, they have the right to know of offices. This gives them undue advantage compared to the other parties that struggle with the fees and dues paid by their members. A man who runs a budget is not the same thing as a man who struggles with his own little resources. The only way to find parties very active is when we can get back to the government funding political parties, so that you can give all of them the conducive environment for them to operate competitively. But if you now allow a man, as it is today, you can see it for yourself,
control the resources,
to control the resources and using the resources and making these other parties look as if they don't exist. I can assure you. And take this to the bank. You see, each time I remember the incident of the last election, don't forget that P2B did not have a councillor. P2B did not have a governor.
Yeah.
P2B did not have a House of Assembly member. He didn't have a House of Rep member. It was him alone and his credibility running around Nigeria. He moved a Labour Party from your description now to a party that was contesting to win an election. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Got a state governor, got persons in the Senate, got persons in the House of Reps, multiple houses of assembly. So that shows that every political party is the same. The difference is the what it attracts. And which is why I believe that any day all the political parties have funding that they can compete favorably, and not putting one man in the Taurus and putting the other man on the base, and they want him to cover it. It will be unfair to them.
This picture you painted using Labour Party as an analogy to what we are saying actually gives me an idea to ask you this question. At the present day as we are today, looking at the time Labour Party came on board, when Peter started campaigning to become the next president, the time and who then was in government that propelled the interests of these young ones to aspire to seeing that they should wrestle and take power from that government, looking at the antecedents of the immediate past government, how Nigeria went into untold hardship, insecurity all over the place. And so anybody that will come and offer a kind of a leeway to provide a solution to it will actually get a backing, despite the fact that the government of that day had the control of the economy and the security. At this period we are, can that be said to be the same as it was for 2023 now?
Topsy, my personal assessment is that Nigerians are in a worse situation today compared to what we were in 2023. In 2023 we were all complaining, but how much was cost of food then? How much was a bag of rice in 2023?
It was a spillover of how the government was in 2023 down that brought about where we are today. Don't forget, there is a growth.
I agree.
It's a growth.
Buhari's 8 years was a disaster. Nigeria, in fact, I pity the present government, but of course they can't run away from it. It was the same APC government. Do you understand? The party is not about one man. It is the party. Ideally, what party should be selling is the manifesto of the party. The APC didn't tell us in those 8 years that Buhari wasn't doing well. Am I correct?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. But you should know very well indeed that what it is today is as a result of how we were in 2023.
I totally agree with you that the current government inherited a bad situation.
Yes.
The question is that how are they responding to that bad situation? This government, yes, very good ideas. We want to maintain the same dollar rates, so you don't have a power dollar situation. You want to remove subsidy. There's something to talk about if you want to do reforms.
Yeah.
Ask those who are reformed. So much reforms is not good. You don't carry too much reforms at the same time. You take your reforms systematically. You may be a bright idea, but there's something you can do on Monday that would have been better done on a Wednesday. If you do it on a Monday, it will be around. I think that's actually what has brought us where we are. His Excellency, on the first day, yes, I like the courage, but on that first day, declaring that subsidy is gone, I think shouldn't have been the best way to do it. You could still remove subsidy, but make it systematic. And even create a cabinet that can help you. At that time, there was nobody.
Only him alone.
So only him alone. So the economy that was already dying could not carry that shock. You know. Don't remind us of 8 years of Buhari. It was a disaster. It was a disaster. I think if APC was kind to Nigerians, they would have just said, let's allow another parties to try and see whether they can recreate what Buhari did to us.
Yeah.
Maybe Ashwaji is unfortunately the one who will start.
But it's actually trying, I must confess. The present administration is trying. Yes, most of us that really lived and still living, honestly, we not want to tell our children the stories of what we experienced in the 8 years down the line. But now things are really getting better. Is it the issue of insecurity where they will come to your house and knock your door and remove you, slaughter you in the presence of your children? And, you know, I've been going stories all along. But thank God this time around, you know, a lot of work is being done. And like we've been saying, really, it's just because the present administration took over power at the time the country was actually nosediving. But let me ask you this question, Prince Chinedu Obi, national. You are equally a doctor. I forgot to add that to your name. National Chairman, National Rescue Movement. Let me ask you this question. You are one of the leaders of the IPAC. Do you often advise these political chairman leaders of how they're supposed to conduct themselves, making sure they believe in the principles of the parties they belong, and ensure that they're not doing it for themselves, they are doing it for the interest of Nigeria and Nigerians and Nigeria, and even the world that stands there and watches us?
IPAC has a code of conduct that regulates the activities and behavior of its members. So we do. We have guidelines, we have a constitution. In fact, recently we moved our code of conduct to a constitution that defines the structure, the operational mechanisms for the Inter-Party Advisory Council. So we do. Part of it is how we even try to resolve inter- and intra-party crisis and all that. And of course, many times in the past, we've gotten our colleagues to take advantage of it. But more will need to be done.
How often do you advise INEC in terms of conducting?
Very well. That one is robust. INEC under Mahmoud has consistently carried what it calls political parties consultative meetings, which is done quarterly. During that meeting is a very robust relationship between the political parties and INEC. And today, when you hear me say INEC is doing very well, it's because there's a synergy between political parties and INEC.
So why is it taking INEC a little bit difficult to register more political parties? Like you likely mentioned at the takeoff of this discussion, that a person identifies himself with a political party based on the way he sees the party and the ideology of the party, and then he finds himself following the party. There are still other persons who don't even believe in those 19 political parties that I mentioned. They want to have more of these parties being registered. You, as a member of IPAC, are political parties still being registered today? And if they are not, why is it so?
Don't forget, at one point, INEC had as much as 90-something political parties until 2020, when about 74 were deregistered in line with the Extant Electoral Act. I'm not the spokesperson for INEC. I wouldn't know why INEC is my party is not seeking registration, so I think you will be asking a different person that question. My party is already registered. To the best of my knowledge, INEC has done what it needs to do, having registered my party, and my party is running. I'm not also aware of anybody who has applied, met the criteria that INEC has not registered. And like I said, to be fair to INEC will be in a better position to answer the question.
Okay, but in your own capacity as Director General IPAC, that regulates the activities of political parties, can there be more of these political parties registered? Is it possible?
It like I said, this is a democracy, and we follow the law. If the law allows you to accept more political parties, so be it. And don't forget, our job in IPAC is for registered political parties, not for unregistered political parties. It's an association of registered political parties.
Yes.
So our operation is within those who are registered.
Okay.
Which is why I am not the DG of unregistered political parties.
We don't want to say anything about that. But let me ask you this question, Prince. There's this talks around. People often say that Nigeria is gradually caving into one party system or one party states. You, as the chairman of a political party and equally a member of IPAC, can that be said to be true, or they are just trying to say it, to malign the image of the ruling party?
Well, I think in fairness to those who are saying that, don't forget the national chairman of APC himself made that comment. It's actually when he made that comment that a lot of persons became a bit worried to say if the driver of the ruling party is saying one party system and with the gale of defection, maybe that is the target. But I can tell you, one party system in Nigeria is not feasible. We're a country of over 200 million people, multiple ethnic, multiple ideas, and if we are in a democracy, the best form of democracy will be under a multi-party system. We're not China, we're not Russia. And I'm able to say I was in China. The first week in China in their governance academy, my argument was that China will run a selective democracy because they have the CPC, which the constitution says is the only party that will rule. But of course they have other political parties. But by the time I spent 2 weeks in China, the third week, I realized why China had gotten to that stage. Because here is a system that works for the people. To get to CPC is not just like just getting, you needed to have evolved from your local system with years of integrity, professionalism, to a point that a CPC person will be more worried about how CPC will punish him if he fails the system than the entire country will punish him. You find a system that is interested in the welfare of the average Chinese. China said they are not a developing country because they want to see the last village in China to be as beautiful as Beijing before they can say they are a developed country. And
they are moving towards that.
They are moving towards that. If you get into China and see how a system works, if that is the system that you have here, you don't mind there's a time in this country nobody was interested in who was president. If you give the people what they want, I can turn my tap and there's water, I can drive on a good road, my security is fine, my health care is fine, I can have a good educational system, I can have a good economy. Who cares who the president is? We become in this kind of agitation of everybody wanting to be president because we are not getting a fair share of a country blessed with the kind of enormous resources God has given to us.
That's the only job that can give you money. But being a leader in a political party, either the chairman...
Which is unfortunate because ideally this should have been a selfless service to the people. It shouldn't be as a man was poor yesterday, they make a councillor and they become a billionaire. That should be a job for the EFCC.
That reminds me, the story of China you gave me reminds me of a political of a country in this Asia, like Arab country. Is it Umar or whatever? Umar. They said they are even begging their citizens to come and take chairmanship of a political party. Nobody wants to do that. Why? Because everybody has whatever he or she wants. So why political parties in the first place?
Topsy, you're making my point.
Honestly.
Once the political class is able to solve the problems of average Nigerian, this agitation will stop. The only reason you have this agitation is that the resources are not evenly shared. The development has not cut across the country. People can't find job to do. There's so much. A hungry man, what did they say? He is a hungry man.
To weaponize hunger is not one of the policies, so that at the end of the day, whatever you say, the person believes in you. To when you weaponize hunger, like the way it is in this country, denial of nearly everything that's considered to be luxury. It's hand-to-mouth kind of living. Sometimes you don't even do hand-to-mouth. So is it intentional to weaponize?
I agree with that thought because I'm a conspiracy theorist. I believe that certain people sit down and orchestrate certain things to achieve certain results. That's the conspiracy theory. But my consolation is that power belongs to the people in a democracy. Like I said here, every society gets what? The kind of leadership it deserves. If you want to collect, they weaponize poverty, right?
Yeah.
And you want to give me 100 million on election day so that I will collect money once and then go back to my hunger, I can say no to it. We have seen cases in this country where people rejected money. So instead of promise me this immediate gratification, give me something that will last for as long as I live.
Yeah.
So the challenge is not before Nigerians to remember that whatever you sow is what you reap. If you sow cassava, you will never reap.
You can't go out harvest rice.
How can you reap rice after you have cooked? So let us not deceive ourselves to say, okay, because you see in our country, what determines the election sometimes is sentiments.
Okay.
My brother, my religion, my tribe. Rubbish. When you go to buy fuel, they don't ask Hausas to kill on one side, Igbos on one side for different prices, right? Mm-hmm. So you need a leader, no matter where he comes from, who will give you what you need to live in a sense.
That will be 200 years to come. I don't see it. I don't see it happening now.
Topsy.
I don't see it.
NRM is saying to Nigerians, believe. Have you seen God before?
I only hear about it.
But you believe there is a God.
Very well.
So believe we can change Nigeria, and Nigeria is changing.